We've got details of these and many more coming up in the next 20 minutes if you spend your time with me. My name is George Quinnin. We're live on DSTV channel 279. On to our very first story. 2 out of every 3 unemployed persons in Ghana are females. That's according to the latest report by the Ghana Statistical Service, which identified up to 1.76 unemployed persons in the country in the third quarter of 2022. Eric Mawinegbeta has more on the findings.
Unemployment remains one of the biggest challenges in the country. Successive governments strive to whittle down the ever-growing numbers. A case in point being Vice President Dr. Bawumia's recent commentary of the current administration creating up to 2 million jobs. With the number being contested, data from the Ghana Statistical Service's 2022 Annual Household Income and Expenditure Survey, third quarter labor statistics, paints a gloomy picture. According to the report, 1.7 million people as of the third quarter of 2022 were unemployed. The figure is made worse with 2 out of the every 3 unemployed persons being females. Between January and September of 2022, about 3.5 million persons were moving in and out of employment, depicting vulnerabilities. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenim called for government action to deal with the rising unemployment challenges.
Although we're not going to divulge the private information, we're going to keep it confidential, we are aiming at disaggregating. That is why now a lot of our analysis, we are going below the regional level. Hitherto, we end at the regional level and it doesn't really help. But now we are even prepared to do district level analysis and locality level analysis to help policymakers and development partners do the right targeting. With a collection of GPS coordinates, that analysis is pretty straightforward.
Responding to the demands, Deputy Employment and Labour Relations Minister Bright Rekubrobe revealed that government would work to reduce the unemployment numbers.
To the good of anybody. But for me, what I have seen, this report will guide we the policymakers so that we are able to do things. We put square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes.
And a Canada-based Ghanaian economist and data scientist, Alfred Appiah, has shot down employment figures put out by the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. He insisted that though Ghana does not have a standard employment record as pertaining to other jurisdictions, the figures provided by the Vice President can never be trusted. This is supported by data from the Statistical Office. Take a listen.
Usually in a lot of jurisdictions, it's not really the politicians that supply job numbers, right? There are things like monthly labor force surveys that are done, and then those are the trackers that you can see, month over month or year over year, quarter over quarter, how many jobs have been created, right? The challenge that we have in Ghana is we don't have that data frequently available. So when I saw the Vice President's message, first thing I did was, okay, let's go back in time. I know that in 2015, the Ghana Statistical Services did a labor force survey. That was the first time that we did. And at the time, I looked at the job numbers there. So basically, how many people were employed at that time in 2015. And that was about 9.3 million. So then I said, okay, let's go into the future. So recently, the Stat Service has been doing this annual household survey where basically they ask some labor market questions, right? And in that, they said, as of quarter 2 of 2022, there are 10.7 million people employed. So the difference, between 2015 and 2022 is about 1.4 million. So it didn't kind of add up to me that one government can say that it's created 2.1 million jobs when the employment growth in that time frame, even when government is saying from 2017, analysis I'm looking at is even from 2015, and that is showing 1.4 million jobs. So it didn't add up to me. So that's when I started digging deeper.
Away from unemployment-related issues, Board Chair of Amnesty International Ghana, Francis Nyantichi, has expressed regret in President Akufo-Addo for overseeing the worst violation of journalists' rights in Ghana. Francis Nyantichi said it is quite sad that the man who spearheaded the repeal of the criminal libel law would be found inadequate when it comes to the misuse and abuse of civil rights. Well, if you just tuned in, you're watching the morning news here on New Day with me, Josh Quinnin. And let's do other news. The Information Minister, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, has urged the media to focus on efforts to ensure the economic rights of citizens are fully actualized while keeping the spotlight on all human rights. He made the observation at the event in Accra to commemorate World Press Freedom Day.
The government of Ghana renews its commendation of the media in commemoration of World Press Freedom Day. The occasion's 30th anniversary is on the international theme, Shaping a Future of Rights, Freedom of Expression as a Driver for All Other Human Rights. The media has been instrumental over the years in highlighting various rights that require attention for full enjoyment. The work of the media also in highlighting instances of abuse of some rights by sections of society has led to redress in many of these instances. We urge the media to remain resolute on this path. The quest to have all citizens fully access their economic rights is yet to be fully achieved, especially as the world faces dim economic forecasts following recent global challenges. Now, while urging the media in Ghana to keep the spotlight on all human rights, we want to in particular encourage an even sharper focus on efforts to ensure that the economic rights of citizens are fully actualized.
And Ghana has dropped 2 places from 60 in 2022 to 62 this year among 180 countries listed on the Global Press Freedom Index by Reporters Without Borders. Aisha Yakubu Halid has been finding out what has accounted for the downward trend.
Ghana's media space has been characterized by what many say are human rights infringements, and with perpetrators almost always escaping necessary sanctions. Today marks World Press Freedom Day, and while we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of this day, we're asking the question, has Ghana made any progress when it comes to press freedom? May 3, the world over, celebrated as Press Freedom Day. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the day set aside to highlight the need for press freedom. Among the factors that contributed to the drop in Ghana's position on the Global Press Freedom Index are the creation of partisan media outlets by politicians, insecurity of practitioners, among others, with many cases of violence against journalists going unpunished.
We are very much concerned about journalists who have been attacked in the past, journalists whose right has been infringed on, and who have not received justice yet. And you know that Ghana, when it comes to investigation or investigative, we don't have the powers to investigate. All we can do is to always draw the attention of the appropriate authority. Aside that, there are measures we can take also the court, that is the civil measures, to also seek for the protection and right of journalists in this country.
Journalists in the country have been tasked to not relent in their role as the fourth arm of government and urged to remain professional in the discharge of their duties.
If we are holding duty bearers accountable, then we must also hold ourselves accountable. Consistently, we should sanitize the space, the media space, for people to know that yes, freedom of expression is a right, but equally there's a responsibility to it.
Public institutions have obligations to the state. But however, in order not to have rotten eggs thrown at us, where we publish something that we have to retract and say that we apologize, it is better that if there are alternative ways of verifying, we resort to those alternative ways of verifying, because sometimes the mere fact that somebody has not responded is not sufficient enough to confirm that it is true.
Some journalists pleaded for more to be done in ensuring their safety in the discharge of their duties, while asking for conclusion on reported cases of violence.
If we are not careful, it is going to get worse, Already, a good number of journalists are leaving journalism to the corporate world because the media doesn't pay. So if we're discouraging journalists or young people from getting into this kind of journalism, we can only get worse. So my appeal to the President of the Republic, stop living in denial. The dangers are real.
I do hear in the media, I do hear from my colleagues how some of them are subjected to forms of abuse in different ways. Sometimes even seizing a media practitioner's tools is a form of abuse. You are preventing him from carrying out his professional duties. So there must be a clear education in that aspect.
As the world commemorates 30 years of press freedom, it behoves on government and other stakeholders to ensure that reported cases of violent attacks against journalists are brought to a conclusion, to encourage practitioners to give of their best in line of duty. Aisha Yakubu Khalid, TV3 News, Accra.
Well, you can find more stories relating to World Press Freedom Day when you visit our website, s3news.com. And now the Madina Land Quantana Municipal Assembly also commenced a rigorous exercise to identify and prosecute developers who have not obtained permits but have started building projects. And this follows the collapse of a building under construction at Atenta, which claimed one life on Monday.
One person was reported dead and 8 others trapped under the rubble sustained injuries following the collapse of a private residence in Medina. The private developer was arrested but has been granted bail. The Medina Lankwantanang Municipal Chief Executive Jennifer Dede Afagbeji told TV3 that on April 20, a team of task force was dispatched to halt the construction of the project after the Works and Engineering Department of the Assembly realized that the private developer was building without permits. The developer then took a break but resumed construction again on the weekend when the Assembly staff were not on duty. As a result, the project was hastened with concrete cast not properly dried, resulting in the collapse of the entire structure. According to the MCE, the Assembly is supporting the police to obtain sufficient evidence from the site to prosecute the private developer, even though debris needed for testing for quality of materials used have been cleared from the site by the said developer.
2 weeks ago, when he started the building, on the 20th of April to be specific, the Assembly stopped the work and issued him with a summons, but he refused to comply. So MUSEC has taken a decision. We will collaborate with the police to ensure that the full prosecution is done, and then this developer is brought to book.
She said preliminary investigations revealed that the soil on which the construction was being done does not support the building that was being built on it. Many other residential buildings in the municipality have no building permits. As a result, the Assembly is embarking on a rigorous exercise to identify and prosecute, saying,
"We intend on prosecuting people because sometimes people would say all the nice things when you arrest them. Oh, we beg, won't do this again, won't do this again." But the general public feels that the Assembly doesn't do anything. So we would let the general public see some of these prosecutions that we do so that they know that indeed the Assembly doesn't go to sleep over some of these things.
She said time frame for processing and issuing of permits for industrial, commercial and residential buildings have been reduced to 1 month to afford every developer the opportunity to obtain a permit before starting any projects.
Well, let's know what you make of stories that have been aired so far. Just go into our social media platforms, TV3 Ghana. Engage us. We'll surely read your comments and share them to the rest of the world. Now, the acting Yendi Divisional Police Commander, ASP Benjamin Amu Ayensu, has cautioned residents against pressuring the police to release suspects who are in custody. He gave the warning at a community engagement in Yendi.
On April 8th, a gentleman dealing in pharmaceutical products was shot dead near Yendi Health Assistant Nursing School. an undisclosed amount of money and his motorbike were taken away by the assailants. On April 19, a hunter returning from his hunting expedition was also ambushed and shot by unknown gunmen. The victim managed and shot at one of the assailants. The two separate incidents have raised serious security concerns within the Yendi municipality. A stakeholders meeting has been organized by members of the Municipal Security Council, the clergy, assembly members, and members of a task force formed some few months ago to assist the security services in curbing issues of insecurity. Acting Yendi Municipal Police Commander, ASP Benjamin Amo Ayesu, appealed to residents to assist police to identify and arrest the perpetrators.
Security is a shared responsibility. We, as police, we do our best to do whatever we have to do to ensure that there is peace at everywhere we are. However, much depends on the communities in which we are to also give us the needed information and logistics for us to act upon.
He blamed residents for always putting pressure on police to release suspects anytime the law catches up with them.
There is also something which I've realized, that when we make arrests, the pressure to request for the person to be released, instead of him or her going through the full term or even face court, to serve as a deterrent to others.
The command, he revealed, has commenced investigations into the matter. He urged the public to cooperate with police. Reverend Cletus Akosa, on behalf of the Bishop of Yendi Archdiocese of the Catholic Church, bemoaned the growing incidence of drug abuse amongst the youth as a cause of insecurity in the area.
We know many of them are engaged in this drug, alcoholism and drug abuse. And consequently, this will take them away from their cultural norms and religious values.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Yendi constituency, Farouk Aliu Mahama, has assured the security services of his support to deal with the situation.
And now to some legal issues. Chinese national standing trial for various illegal mining offences. Aisha Huang has been convicted by Accra High Court of immigration offence after she changed her plea from not guilty to guilty. Justice Lee Yosemafu deferred her sentencing to the end of the trial regarding 3 remaining charges against the accused. Lord Idwasare reports.
Aisha Huang changed her plea on the charge of entering Ghana while prohibited from re-entry contrary to Section 24 of the Immigration Act 2000, Act 573, to guilty after entering into a plea of bargain with the Office of the Attorney General. Prosecution led by Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuayabua closed the case, having called 11 witnesses. 11th prosecution witness, Superintendent Divine Anhuma Okanse, told the court that the Chinese national forged documents to obtain indefinite residency permits after her 30-day visitor visa expired. The Immigration Service officer testified that after investigations, it came to light that Aisha Huang had forged documents citing marriage to Anthony Fabian, a Ghanaian, in November 2010 and renewed in April 2015. Checks with the Birth and Death Registry as well as the Passport Office of the Foreign Affairs Ministry showed that there were no records of the said husband of Aisha Huang by name Anthony Fabian. Aisha Huang has been charged with 4 counts of undertaking a mining operation without a license, facilitating the participation of persons engaged in the mining operation, the illegal employment of foreigners, and entering Ghana while she had been prohibited from re-entry. The case has been adjourned to May 25. Lord Idwasare, TV3 News, Accra.
And now to the foreign front. The 13-year-old suspect in a school shooting in Serbia planned the attack for a month and had a list of targets. Please, sir. At least 8 students and a security guard are dead after the shooting at an elementary school in the capital, Belgrade. Another 6 pupils and a teacher were injured in the attack and have been taken to the hospital, according to a government statement. Police arrested a 13-year-old boy in connection with the attack at the Vladislav Rybnika school. The suspect's classmates say he walked into a history class, first shot the teacher, and then turned his weapon on his fellow students. A very sad development there, but that's how we end the morning news. For more news updates, just log on to our website, it's TV3News.com. My name is George Quinn. It's always a pleasure coming your way. If you focus on the good gets better. Good morning, guys.